following program is rated TV MA LSV. It contains strong language, sexual situations, and violence. It is intended only for mature audiences.
Cheers and welcome to Cabernet Chronicles. On this episode, we are going to ask, what the fuck is your problem? Just kidding. Just kidding. We're not doing that. We're
not doing that, but she still wants to know.
I do still want to know. During our test, we've been trying to figure out the lighting, and he was like, what's wrong with your face? And I was like, I don't know. And Jet was like, respectfully, those are just her bags under her eye. So yeah, he did, and he just kept digging his own grave.
And now it's your fault.
digging his own grave too. No, but in all seriousness, hello and welcome to Cabernet Chronicles. Cheers. Today, I'm gonna tell you. This is my special guest, Donny.
Hello.
He's fine, whatever. Likes all the bags under my eyes. But God damn it. But in this episode, I am going to tell you some stories about some cursed movie sets.
And I'm here to put the Cabernet in Cabernet Chronicles.
We both have Cabernet.
Well, I know, but...
But I guess he's going to I put the Chronicles in it, you put the Cabernet.
Yes.
You know.
Poking at everything we do and trying to cause havoc. It me.
I know. So we are going to talk about some cursed movie sets. Do you know any good curses? Just kidding. I don't care.
Trick question, motherfucker.
This is my show, and this is me doing the thing, not you. So anyways, sources for this episode are some articles from a Cinema Lend and biography.com, as well as a docuseries called Cursed Films and a Wikipedia. Well, lots of Wikipedia articles because so many Wikipedia articles for this. So the first movie I'm going to tell you about is The Exorcist. You've seen The Exorcist, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Sometime back, but yes.
Back when you were a wee small lad.
Yeah, somewhere around the age of 8 or 9, I think.
Yeah, so like the best time to watch a film about being possessed by the devil. That's awesome. I also watched it at way too young of an age and never wanted to watch it ever again. All right, The Exorcist film, the first one. We're talking mostly about the first one, but there are some crazy shit that happens within the second one, but I don't feel like it deserves to even be talked about. Just saying. We're only talking about the very first Exorcist film. So the very first Exorcist film was only supposed to take 80 days, and it took over 200 days to film. And due to accidents, it was more than $13.8 million over budget.
Somebody grossly underestimated the need.
Yes. Well, so technically back in that day. So I already put it in today's money, but back then it was 2.5 million over budget. But when you only have a budget of like 10 million, 2.5 million dollars is a lot. And it went over budget because again, all these accidents had made it. So it took, instead of 80 days, it took 200 days to film.
What were the accidents?
Oh, let me tell you all about these accidents that have happened. So there was a carpenter that lost a thumb. A technician that lost a toe. But the biggest thing that put it so it took a lot longer to film was the McNeil's house actually caught fire after a bird flew into a circuit breaker. Destroyed most of the set other than Reagan's room. Reagan's room was completely untouched.
Weird.
Yeah. So they had to cancel the production happening in the house in order to fix it because there was a fire. Also, how do fires start from just birds coming into like a circuit breaker? Like that's crazy, right?
Birds short circuit stuff all the time. I mean, they'll be on a transformer and they'll arc.
Well, but birds aren't real. The only way that birds like happen are because they sit on the electrical wires to charge. I'm just kidding. No, I'm just kidding. No, literally there was a guy that made that up during COVID.
Yeah. That is
and then, yeah, it's So birds are real. Don't worry. I think birds are real.
All these people on this set luck like that. They should have started changing direction and making a movie about winning the lottery.
I feel like it was bad luck on the set that was happening.
Well, maybe it was because they were making an Exorcist film.
Probably. This is probably what was happening was, you know, the bad juju of making an Exorcist film.
Well, I think when you say certain words and say certain terms, like those things gravitate toward you as you like.
Yes.
You shouldn't say like stuff about that if you don't want it to come to you.
Yes.
And there's probably a lot of discussion about a lot of those things. And
yeah, for sure.
Generates the energy that brings that toward you. Right?
Well, and also, so some of the part of the curse of the Exorcist film is also that there were so many injuries as well. So I already said that a carpenter lost a thumb, a technician lost a toe, but two of the main actors also both during scenes got hurt. So Linda Blair, Reagan, she actually broke her back in a scene where she was strapped to the bed, but they didn't strap her tight enough and her back broke. And so to this day, she has scoliosis and she has like a terrible back pain from it. You have to remember, she was a child.
Got insurance from that or something?
I mean, this is also the 70s, and I feel like OSHA didn't really exist, and neither did a lot of the safety measures that happen in movies now. Because also, Linda Blair talks about how she can absolutely not be in cold areas anymore because she was like, so the room, Reagan's room, when you see their breath, that's real. Because they refrigerated the room down to -20. And with all the lights, it made it so it got warmer, but they could only film scenes for up to 3 minutes at a time because it was so cold. And Reagan was only in a nightgown and she had a little bit of legging underneath her. So that whole time...
That's like verging on child abuse.
Yeah, absolutely. 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 That was awful and horrible. But one of the ones that is really bad, and it actually made it into the final cut of the film, is the actress that plays her mom. She got pulled into the wall. Like, so Reagan like pushes her against the wall and everything. She got pulled into the wall and her tailbone breaks. And the scream that they used in the final is her legitimately having her tailbone break.
Yikes.
Like, super bad.
Well, if you're looking for authenticity.
Yes, if you're looking for authenticity, apparently that is you just authentically
start breaking people.
Break people's tailbones and backs, you know, and then their screams will be real. So that also contributed to the longer factor of having it be, instead of 80 days, be 200 days, because she had to take 2 weeks off in order to heal, in order to be able to stand up.
Sounds like something didn't want that movie to be made.
Right? It does. Not just injuries on set, though. There were many deaths that happened within that time frame. So Jack McGowan, yeah. He died a week after he completed his scenes as Dennings from the flu. A week after he completed his scenes. Yeah. And then the older mother who died of old age in it, she died of old age before filming even ended.
Okay, well, I'm not going into the scary movie industry.
Right? So more deaths that were of the actual cast, but were of people's loved ones, was that there was a night watchman that died. The operator of the refrigeration system for Reagan's room died. And an assistant cameraman newborn died during the filming.
Brutal.
Yeah.
God.
And many family members died, including Linda Blair's grandpa died the first week of filming, and Von Sato's brother within the second week of production.
Yikes.
It said that this movie set was cursed.
Yeah.
The movie came out, and then it turns out that one of the extras was a murderer.
So that guy was on set the whole time?
No, he wasn't on set the whole time. He was the x-ray technician in the scene where she's getting her x-ray and everything. And he was a real life x-ray technician. And in 1979, so the movie was filmed and came out in 1973, right? Yeah. He was convicted of murder. His name was Paul Bateson, and he murdered the journalist Addison Verrill. And what had happened was he had been stabbed and there was signs of a struggle, but he was also a gay man. And he frequented the leather clubs of Greenwich Village of the 70s. One called the Mine Shaft and the other called the Anvil.
A mine shaft.
Yes. Now, I know it is a really good name for a club though, right? I feel like
particular, yes.
I feel like it's such a good name for a club.
Yes.
But because he was a journalist and he actually worked in the film industry too, he had a lot of friends. And so one of them was gay activist. I didn't put his name in here. Uh-oh. His last name was Bell. Oopsies. Anyways, so his friend, Mr. Bell, penned an article in the Village Voice, and he used this case as an example of how the police weren't taking murders of gay men seriously. They were just attributing them to lovers' quarrels or, sex gone wrong and everything. And during this time, there were many, many gay men that were found dead or were missing, but no one was taking them as that seriously.
That's
so
in
he,
a progressive area, rural
it's
areas.
in the 70s though. And so he penned this article, but at the end of the article, he also put his number down for anyone who had tips or anything of that. And what's crazy is 8 days later, someone called claiming to be the murderer, to be the killer. He identified himself as him, and he called in, and why he called in was because Bell had in his article said that the killer was obviously a psychopath who was going after gay men, who are targeting gay men. And he didn't like that characterization. So he called in to correct Bell.
Help himself.
No, I'm not a psychopath. And then told him this whole story of how they were out all night. They were doing all these drugs. They were drinking. They went back to their place.
Kids, this is why you should not mix uppers and downers.
Right. And he went back to Viral's apartment in order to, yes, have sex with him, but also he wanted his money. He wanted more money for drugs and stuff. And that's what he said. And so then when they finished and Viral was like, we're not doing a relationship and I'm not giving you money, he then stabbed him. Stabbed him, took all his cash and his credit card. And he's telling all this to Belle on the phone. And Belle is like, okay, writing down. He then immediately calls the police and tells them what he just heard. And the police are like, oh, wow. We hadn't told anyone that the credit card was stolen. That was something that we kept out of the public.
Aha.
So we think there's a good chance that this guy is the guy. Mm-hmm. So then they went to Belle's apartment and they were like, he's probably going to call you again. So we got to stake it out and let's see what happens.
Yep.
What happened though isn't that him. That's what he named himself. Oh, and one of the things also that he talked about was that they used Crisco and they had found some Crisco on the floor. And so I know. No, but again, that was
in the early days.
That's one of that's one of the things that the police didn't tell anyone about though. They didn't tell. So this guy knew two things about the crime scene, one thing about the crime scene and one thing about what was stolen that no one that wasn't the killer would know. And so they staked it out. But instead of him calling back, they got a call from a guy named Mitch. And Mitch said that he knew that the killer was a man named Paul Bateson. And that Paul Bateson had called him earlier to confess to the murder. And he was like, how about I try to meet up with him? We can do like a sting operation. And Belle's like, no, I'll just tell the police.
That sounds like a good way to get stabbed.
Yes, it sounds like a very good way to get stabbed. Never set up your own like stakeouts. Definitely don't do that. Go to the police. So they went to the police and the police went and arrested Bateson. And when the police asked him, do you know why we're here? He pointed to the article in the Village Voice and said, I think it has something to do with that. And they were like, yes. And later he gave a written confession. Now, Bateson got 20 plus years.
That's it?
Yes.
For murder?
Yes.
Fuck.
He got paroled in 2003. At his trial, a witness came forward saying that Bateson confessed to murdering 29-year-old Ronald?
You're leaving us in suspense. Fix it. Jesus. What do you mean?
Ronald.
There we go. God, that was a cliffhanger.
Yeah, Jesus. Ronald Cabo, 41-year-old Donald McNiven, and 43-year-old John Beardsley, as well as other men in the gay community. And all three of those men, they were found stabbed in their apartments in early 1973.
Wow.
They had all visited the same gay bars of the Mine Shaft and the Anvil.
Checks out.
So Bateson was also implicated in a string of 6 murders called the Bag Murders.
Starting to think that mine shaft place needs a canary. Jesus. I was dying.
Well, so Belle,
Am I not supposed to curse in this?
No, I've been cursing this whole fucking time, babe.
Okay, good.
Don't worry. So Bell, the guy who wrote the Village article, he actually went to visit Bateson in prison when he was waiting for trial. And he actually straight up said, had I met Bateson at a club, I probably would have went home with him too. Instead, I met him in jail, knowing that he murdered one of my friends. This guy was a charmer, it sounds like. And also, again, he was in a movie, so he was a little charmer. But he was implicated in 6 murders called the Bag Murders from 1975 to 1977. And the reason you're like, why are they called the Bag Murders? I can see that you're laughing. Well, they're called the Bag Murders because 6 men's body parts. So the body parts of 6 men were found in bags in the Hudson River.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
These men have never been identified. Tracing their clothes, they found that all of them were bought at the same leather store in Greenwich Village.
Wow.
So they think that all 6 men were gay men, a part of the leather scene.
Oh, man.
Which, again, same place, the mine shaft, the anvil. They think that all the men were a part of the leather community. And they think that Bateson had targeted them. And they did that. And murders like that stopped after he went to prison.
Yeah. So,
They could never pin those murders on him, though. There wasn't enough evidence. But no, he was eligible for parole in 1997 because he got 20 to life, not 25 to life.
wow.
Because the prosecutor tried to have this evidence of the witness saying that he confessed to him about these different murders. But the judge said that since there was no concrete evidence that it was him, he wasn't going to use that in his sentencing. Yeah. Those cases are still open, cold cases, and they have no idea who the victims are. So, no, he's dead.
Oh.
He's dead now. At least we're pretty sure he's dead now. A man of his same name with his same date of birth and social security number died in 2012. But yes, he was free for the last
Interesting. How old was he?
10 years. He was 85 by the time he died.
Yeah, he's probably not fit enough to do anything else.
Yeah. So most likely he didn't murder any others.
Spent a lot of time in prison. You got a lot of time in the yard. You could be fit,
Yeah, I mean, you could be fit.
but you're probably not as nimble as you.
It's just really sad though, because like 6 men haven't been identified.
That sucks.
I mean, I really hope that they have the DNA for these guys, and
That stuff. I don't think that stuff lasts. 30 years.
no, they can if they're properly refrigerated, if they're properly stored.
Yeah.
But New York tends to lose a lot of evidence, it seems.
Well,
there was a fire in some of the
wasn't there a whole
yes, there was
house that went up and
Yes.
got torched as a result
yes,
of.
and so these men may never be identified, but if they are, they're probably trying to use like genealogy.
Well, there's got to be some way to identify them based on the people that they knew.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, that person just goes missing, right?
Yeah. Well, but the problem was in the 70s, they didn't take missing people as seriously as they should. So a gay man goes missing and their friends are like, oh, he's gone. A lot of times they would say things like, oh, he just like went to San Francisco, or he probably just went here or there or wherever, or like back then it was so easy to also disappear.
Yeah.
You know, it's not like today where we have social media, where we keep in touch and everything. Cameras everywhere. Exactly. So it was a lot easier, but also being gay men, the police didn't care as much.
Yeah, you're in the periphery.
Yeah, whatever. Yeah. So there's not a good enough record of the gay men who went missing or their timelines wrong because they went missing a certain day, but they weren't reported missing or they weren't taken seriously as being missing until way later kind of thing. Yeah.
Sad.
I know. So it's really sad. And that's the murderer of the Exorcist.
And how long was that guy on set?
He was just on set for the hospital scene. So he wasn't on set the whole time.
So do we think he was killing before the movie?
A couple of the murders did happen in 1973, which is like the same time that was all happening.
Interesting. So was it predestined to happen because he was that already? And he just happened to be a part of the movie? Or was he a part of the movie and all the energy that was going to the movie got into him and he started doing the things that he was doing?
I don't know. Are you saying that he was maybe possessed by the Exorcist demon?
Possibly. I mean, you have all that shit happening. You may be doing and saying things that draw that energy in. And that's what, I mean, if you... People tend to be unaware of, things like that. And if you're not aware of that, it makes you more susceptible to being, I think, what's the word I'm looking for?
Possessed?
Not possessed, but like that energy. Influenced by the energy around you, right?
Yeah.
And I don't know if... I don't know how you would... there's no way to gauge it, right? But it's like it kind of makes you think and slow you down a little bit and go... So maybe if we didn't do things like that, would things like this still happen? Yeah. Probably, but...
definitely.
You have a whole collective of people...
There's a ton of murderers out there who are absolutely not on a cursed film set.
Oh, I suppose.
But at least he was in jail for at least one of the murders. So that's at least good.
Okay. Well, that's good.
Yeah. So that is the story about the Exorcist film set.
What else you got?
I have another film set that was also known to be cursed.
Okay.
And this one, by the end of it, is going to absolutely infuriate you. And that's a story that I'm going to tell you next time. Just kidding. Anyways, so we're going to talk about the cursed set of the Poltergeist.
Oh, that was the TV one?
Oh, where the little girl went in the TV. Yes. Yeah. So the Poltergeist, it had 3 movies in the first trilogy of it. Okay. And weird things and fucked up things happened during that whole time. And one of the reasons that many people contribute to that is instead of using fake skeletons, they used real skeletons.
That doesn't seem like a wise idea.
Human skeletons, because it was cheaper to use real human skeletons
than to buy some plastic version. Come on.
Yes.
Really?
So that scene when she falls into the pool and there's all these like skeletons, those are real ones.
Oh man.
And she had no idea that they were real human skeletons either. Crazy shit. So some of the crazy shit that happened, because they're using real life skeletons. You know, if I die and my skeleton gets used in a movie, I might not actually care because I'd be like, oh my God, I'm famous now. Hi. But I'm sure that's not what they thought was going to happen to their skeleton when they either donated it to science or most likely were probably incarcerated individuals that didn't have a choice of what happened to their body. Or in the 70s, they still had mental institutions. And
that's right.
Many of them also didn't have choices of what would happen to their bodies either. So most likely these skeletons were of people that did not want their skeletons to be used as movie props. Here's just a taste of some of the weird shit that happened on the set. Lights would explode. Like, there was nothing quite like The Exorcist where it was like a fire, but weird shit like that would happen. Lights would flicker. There are stories of beds shaking, like in their hotel rooms, beds shaking, as well as books falling off of, like not just falling off, but flying off of shelves. Like someone came and just right off the shelf. Just really creepy shit like that, to where if someone had to walk through one of the sets, they would want to be accompanied with someone, because it would always be like weird shit would happen where they'd be like, all right, we're walking through this hallway. Oh God, oh God, oh God, oh God. Oh, okay. Now I'm where it's actually lit and it's okay now. But everyone had like this dark, ominous feeling the whole time, to the point where in the second one, the medicine man, his name was Will Sampson. He sensed an evil presence on set, and he actually performed an exorcism on the set himself. And actually, it sounds like after he did that, many of the things stopped happening on that set, at least.
By some people. And they can do and say the right things, and it will purge whatever's in the space. And I think there's an escape factor. You have to give it, like, crack a window so that it can go out, right? Yes. But I've actually experienced some of that stuff before, where I was on the phone with somebody and was telling them, oh, that was kind of weird. Oh, I heard this, I heard that. And they said a couple of things, and they're like, I'm going to say these things, and you should open a window and let me know if anything happens. And they said a couple of things, and a gush of like wind went right past me toward the window, and I was like, whoa, that was scary.
Yeah, that's
super sketch.
That's
like
so creepy.
I was 100% alone except for with the person on the phone, but the audio was the right words for that thing or that energy to hear and escape through the window. Is nuts. So it's like there is another facet to this life that is not just physical. And and some people are very aware.
When you're doing things like making movies about them, they might not like it.
Well, and that's what I say. Like, I think if you start talking about things more in depth and start it's almost like a conjuring, right? Yes. It starts to gravitate toward, it's like, oh, you're talking about this. Oh, I am this. Oh, let's go this way, right?
Yes, that's another movie set that was also apparently really haunted as well. But we're not talking about that movie set right now, The Conjuring. We're talking about Poltergeist. So Poltergeist also, there were 4 deaths that happened during or after production of cast members. 4 cast members like died. So one of them was Julian Beck, but he was diagnosed with stomach cancer in 1983, and he died shortly after finishing filming the second film. The next one was actually Will Sampson. So the one who did The Exorcist, he needed a lung and heart transplant, and he died after that surgery, after his body rejected the organs. Yikes. So those are 2 sad ones, but at the same time, both of them knew that they were sick. Both of them knew something was wrong. Now I'm gonna get to the sad parts ones. Trigger warning, death of a child coming up right now. So Heather O'Rourke, she was wrongly diagnosed with Crohn's disease.
This is the little blonde girl?
Yes. They're here. That little girl. First, she was diagnosed with Crohn's disease at 11. And then a year later, she felt ill, and they thought it was the flu. So she was misdiagnosed with that again. And then she collapsed with cardiac arrest. Turned out she had a bowel obstruction, and she passed away in surgery while they tried to fix the bowel obstruction. And it was found out later that she didn't have Crohn's or any signs of Crohn's. She instead had a congenital intestinal disorder where basically her intestines were abnormal and weren't right. So
that was before the days of swallowing a pill camera and letting it
yes this is definitely the days before swallowing the pills.
Pre-technology.
Yes. And also when kids that age who are also in stressful positions, like being a child actor, has things like stomach issues, a lot of times it's put up to stress. So it's not, let's do an MRI, let's do all this, let's do that. So unfortunately, she passed away.
That's
at the age of 12.
God.
Yeah. Now we're on to the real fucked up part of this little story. the murder of Dominique Dunn. So Dominique Dunn was the oldest sister in the first movie. She was recast because she was murdered. And she was murdered by her abusive ex-boyfriend.
Wait, she was recast because she was murdered?
Yes. Because she was like, so they had to recast her in the second and the third movies.
Oh, I see, yes.
Because Dominique Dunn was murdered by her abusive ex-boyfriend.
I see what you're saying.
Yeah, in 1982. Yeah.
The Cabernet, sorry. I'm getting a little slow.
Yeah, you are. Jesus. Drink a little bit more. God. One of the reasons why I want to tell this story is because it shows you just how much police really can fuck something up. And then also how a judge's decision on what the jury sees can really completely change a trial.
That's right. Impact the outcome.
Because it's fucked up. In 1982, her former abusive partner came to her house just weeks after she had ended the relationship and had kicked him out. She had actually been staying with her parents for a while until he left, and she changed the locks. Now, he showed up to her house after he was able to get the operator to break into a telephone call that she was on.
Yeah, that's right. That's the thing.
So back in 1982,
yeah, emergency.
and she was on the phone with her friend, and she said, "Oh my God, it's him." And she like hung up the phone. She was at her house already, though, with her coworker, because remember, she's an actress. So she's like, and her coworker was David Packer. And her abusive ex showed up to her house, and she went to talk to him outside, thinking she'd be safe because she's outside, but also her friend is there. But she told her friend to call the police. He called the police. And at that time, apparently, if you didn't call the Wright police, they wouldn't do anything about it.
The Wright?
Yeah, so he called the police, and he was told that the house was not in their jurisdiction. So they couldn't help.
Oh, God.
So instead...
You're an unincorporated...
Yeah,
county.
right? Exactly. Something like that. But it's like, well, so now if you call 911, they just find out where it is, and then they'll transfer you exactly where you need to go. Well, first they'll call the police out if it's something like this, like, oh my God, this guy showed up.
Well, it's the advent of cell phones. They had no choice, right?
And yeah, they didn't have any choice. So this is on the home phone. So he heard some slaps, 2 screams, and a thud. And then he hung up with the police because they weren't helping. And he called his friend and said, "If I'm found dead, this guy did it." And so he then ran outside of the back and ran to the front, and he sees Dominique in her driveway, and her abusive ex is straddling her and strangling her. And then he gets up, walks into the house, and he calls the cops himself, and he says, "I killed my girlfriend, and I'm going to kill myself."
Oh. Wow.
Yeah. And
that's weird.
Yes.
What's the logic?
Well, so he claims that he went inside and took a bunch of painkillers, and then he went and laid down next to her. And when the cops came, he said, "I killed my girlfriend and tried to kill myself."
He thought painkillers was going to do it?
Apparently. Now, this is the part that's going to
get him high for a little
piss you off. And it pissed me off. You want to know how long her killer was in jail for?
70s?
No, 83. 80s. Famous actress.
And he admitted it, too. On the phone. Which is probably a recorded line.
But then also admitted it to the police when they got there.
Okay, shoot.
He was convicted of involuntary manslaughter and only spent 3.5 years in prison.
Holy cow.
So this is like...
What the hell?
How did that happen?
Where was it?
LA County. So how did that happen? Well, let me tell you how that happened. Crimes against women apparently aren't taken that fucking seriously.
They're like, you killed a bitch.
And don't matter, especially to the judge.
Now you...
Yes. Oh.
Don't do that again, silly.
Judge Burton Katz. Yes, I'm naming the fucking judge that let this shit happen. Burton Katz, his decisions of what was admissible and what was not admissible are what turned everything and why he got this sentence. The killer, he claimed it was a heat of passion and that he actually wasn't broken up with her. They were actually getting back together.
Says the guy who's still alive when the other party cannot answer.
And so what this guy, like, so what the prosecutors though did, they were like, no. we want all of her family to testify to like all the abuse that she had gone through, everything. Cause it was like a lot that she had gone through. But then also they put the ex-girlfriend of the killer on the stand, but they made the jury go out first. So then she started testifying.
Go out.
So like, in order to decide if evidence can be brought in, you have to make sure that the jury leaves the room.
Whoa.
Because you can't then be like, oh, is this admissible in court? And then like,
then it's too late. The
jury's already seen it.
So okay. Gotcha.
So the testimony of the ex-girlfriend, of the killer's ex-girlfriend, they had the jury leave. And as she was testifying about how this guy abused her physically, mentally, all these things, how she barely survived, got out. Sorry that I'm boring you.
Sorry, it's been a long day.
I know, I get it. Anyways, so they have the jury go out and they have the ex-girlfriend testify, and she's testifying about how he was abusive, he was mentally abusive, how she thought she was going to die a couple times, things like that. Yeah. And the killer got so angry and upset during her testimony that he jumped from his chair and ran at her and was tackled by the bailiffs.
Holy shit. But that should that should speak.
That should speak volumes. But you know what? His lawyer was like, oh, this is going to be prejudicial to the jury. And so...
What do you mean prejudicial to the jury? I mean, he just did it in front of the judge. There's nobody else there.
I know, but the lawyer.
Take that into account.
Oh, you would think. No, the judge agreed that it would be prejudicial, and he didn't allow the testimony of the ex-girlfriend, of any of Dominique's family, of any of Dominique's friends. So all the jury got was that there's hearsay of maybe some abuse that happened, but really it was a crime of passion and that he absolutely loved her and he didn't mean to strangle her. So the judge agreed to not even let any of that in. And then the defense was able to argue, instead of first-degree murder, that they should put it down to second because the state hadn't given enough proof that it was premeditated. Because
so if you do something on a whim, it's
second-degree murder. Yes. So first-degree murder is premeditated. Second-degree is crime of passion, whim. He was like, it should be downgraded to second.
That in the back of your head.
Oh,
you
yes.
might get away with something someday.
Oh, yes. Oh, no. If I'm going to murder you, it's going to be no one will know and no one will find you. One of the best actually
definitely got caught.
Yeah. Some of the best advice I got. Well, I don't know if it's best.
She's like, some of the best advice I've gotten as a killer.
No. One of my friend's grandpas was a Vietnam vet, and he straight up was like, if you're going to murder someone, don't do it while you're angry, because when you're angry, you make mistakes.
Oh, yeah, totally. Yeah.
So don't worry. I'm just going to give you bacon for the next years.
That's right.
And then slowly
just
kill
wait
you.
For the ticking time bomb inside you to explode.
We're talking about a serious thing. Don't murder people.
Try not to. It's not a good idea.
But so they downgraded it. And so after 8 days of deliberating, the jury acquitted him of second-degree murder, but convicted him of manslaughter. This caused outrage. And Dominique Dunn's dad is a writer named Dominique Dunn. Mm-hmm. And he actually got up and after the judge said, this is important because the judge tries to backpedal later. The judge, after the verdict was read, said justice was fulfilled and justice was done. And Dominique Dunn, Dominique's dad, got up and yelled, "Not for our family, Judge Katz." This caused outrage, like absolute outrage. An advocacy group named Victims for Victims held marches outside the courtroom. Yeah. The media held polls that made it so Judge Katz was voted 4th worst judge in LA.
Well, can they not find a way to impeach that guy? I mean, judges have a huge role in cases, and they can have a massive impact. And so, with all of the things that could have been presented, when you have a judge that decides to...
Well, I'm getting to that.
Oh, sorry. I'm getting ahead of the game here.
Yeah, you are. Jeez. Slow your roll, motherfucker. Yeah, damn. But he was the 4th worst judge in LA. After all the outrage, though, so a month later at the sentencing, this motherfucker Judge Katz tried to criticize the jury's verdict and said that, said that the verdict of manslaughter, stating that he felt Dunn's death was, quote, a case of pure and simple murder with malice, unquote.
Well, wait a fucking second.
So this then caused the jury foreman to come out and be like, no, bitch. And he straight up said it was a cheap shot and that he feels like Judge Katz only said that because of all the criticism,
of course,
which I absolutely believe, because again, when the verdict was read, he said that justice had been served. And now at sentencing, he's trying to say that, no, this was murder. But because he didn't let anything in, the jury could only make their decision based on the evidence, which is how you're supposed to do it.
Yeah.
But literally, the jury foreman said that the only reasons why did manslaughter and not murder was because they didn't see the testimonies of everything. They didn't see all the evidence. And had he let that evidence in, they would have all convicted of a murder.
Yeah, absolutely.
But because he did what he did and he didn't let the testimony of the ex-girlfriend to show that he's an abusive asshole, and he had the way of being an abusive asshole this whole fucking time.
Is this dude voted in or appointed in?
And in LA they're voted. So then he ends up getting voted out. Yes.
Yeah, good God.
People are outraged again, but he then gave the maximum for manslaughter in California.
How long was that?
6 years.
Oh,
and he was out in 3.5.
Wow. Did he kill anybody else since then?
No, not that we
Is he still alive?
know of. Yes.
Ooh.
Now,
How old is he now?
I'm not sure how old.
Do you know how old he was during the trial, roughly?
About 23, 24. But you're going past the part that should be pissing you off.
Oh.
Someone who got manslaughter only had to serve 3.5 years.
Yeah,
he got out for good behavior.
Killed somebody and admitted it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not to mention, there are people that are still in prison for nonviolent drug offenses,
selling weed.
for selling weed longer than this guy was in for murdering his ex-girlfriend.
Yeah. They say that
this is the part that should piss you off.
I was going to say, and they say that there's not two judicial systems.
Yes, there absolutely is two judicial systems. But the fact that an actress wasn't given a fair trial, she should have, right?
Police, openly admit
on
a recorded line that you killed somebody, and then sat there, laid there. Police show up. You tell them again that you killed the person.
Yep.
How's that not automatic?
Yep. I don't know. Again, when you get a judge who doesn't actually give a shit about women, things happen. So some of the aftermath that happened after the trial is that Dominique Dunn's dad, he kept a journal during the trial, and he ended up publishing an article called Justice, a father's account of the trial of his daughter's killer, and was featured in March 1984's issue of Vanity Fair.
Wait, so he wasn't a juror. Did he get to see all the stuff?
Oh, yes. He saw all the stuff. Ooh. So as family, you can be in the courtroom the entire time.
Wow.
So he saw all the stuff, but also he wasn't allowed to testify. So he wanted to take the stand and testify about how...
But was he bound to not being able to say anything to anybody?
Not after the trial, no.
So the book that he wrote detailed all of the stuff that you were articulating could not be admitted.
Yes.
That was not admissible.
Well, and it's also just about his experience of watching the trial.
Yeah.
Because one of the things about trials that people don't really talk about is that, this is a good example of a trial that does not give a fuck about the victim whatsoever. Mm-hmm. It's the state versus the killer. It's the state versus the person. And Dominique, the victim, was absolutely lost in this entire thing. Her family did not get to give any sort of testimony, any sort of anything. Total fucking bullshit. And so this is a case that really shows how fucked up the system can really be, especially towards victims and to victims' families. Because it re-traumatizes you, of course, but also you'll learn a lot more about what actually happened on your child's or your friends or whatever last moments. And so it's horrifying sometimes. And So he wrote that article. Her mother actually made an advocacy group called Justice for Homicide Victims. And it's a advocacy group that has also helped change some of the laws when it comes to victim rights. Like, so many states now actually do have victim rights, Bill of Rights now. And so things like this hopefully don't happen now, where Dominique was just completely lost within that and was not given.
It was pre-regulation essentially, right? Or pre-rights.
Yeah. And so her killer only served half of the sentence. And again, it's like, can we stop letting violent men out of jail early on good behavior? And keeping, nonviolent drug offenders in jail for 20 plus years, but letting murderers out after 3.5?
Dude, some guy that's got pounds of weed, whatever. I mean, if he's trying to make a living, why is that more critical than women being murdered by guys? Like, you kidding me? What the hell?
So this guy got out of prison and he went to work as a chef in Santa Monica. Okay. And what Dominique's family did is they would stand outside the restaurant and they would give flyers to anyone that going in saying, quote, "The food you will eat tonight was cooked by the hands that killed Dominique Dunn," end quote.
That is money. That is some dedication.
And so he ended up having to quit because of this. Although I'm like, why wasn't he fired? / why wasn't he not hired in the first place? Like, I think that's probably bad publicity for you as a restaurant, upscale restaurant in Santa Monica, to employ the murderer of an actress. Like, probably not the best thing to do.
I mean, there's some of their time, and they.
Oh no,
they paid their dues, right?
I'm not saying to not give people new chances. I'm just saying, like, for publicity, like, why would you think that was a good idea as a restaurant to like this? This was like a huge scandal.
Yeah, you have
huge
people
thing
protesting essentially.
Yes.
Why would you continue to?
Why would you let him quit? Like, you should have fired him. I guess like firing him though, then they would have had to pay him unemployment. But anyways,
oh my God.
I know, right? So after that, he moved out of Los Angeles and actually changed his name. So I'm getting to that.
Sorry, I'm just
Hold your fucking horses.
I'm curious. Want to know. I got questions.
And I'm getting there. And I got some answers. Anyways, so he changed his name. And in the 1990s, a doctor in Florida had read the article about Dominique Dunn. And he realized that his daughter's fiance had like a lot of the similar traits, a lot of similar stuff. And so he sent a picture to Dominique Dunn asking if that was the guy.
Yeah.
And it was.
Ah!
And
just be like, you know what? I'm going to take one for the team because I know what this family's been through. And now I'm close to this guy. I'm just going to fucking do it.
Yeah. So him and his wife and Dominique's brother, they all traveled to Florida and helped this guy have an intervention with his daughter, and showed her all the things and was like, you can get out. And so she actually ended the relationship
successfully without being murdered.
Yes.
Wow.
And he ended up moving.
Yes. Just lunge at that guy and just take him out.
Oh, yeah, I know, right? So he ended up moving again and changed his name again.
Oh God.
And then this time, Dominic had a PI following him for almost 10 years just to keep tabs on where he was and what he was doing.
So this guy must be incredibly capable. I wonder what he does for a living.
He's a chef.
I know you said he was a writer.
Oh, Dominique Dunn?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, he's a writer.
He said he was a writer, but he must have been doing something else because the dedication in time and money that it takes for that.
Like her mom, so his wife, it was a horse ranch heiress. So they had money as well.
Okay, that's great because that helps fuel that because to be able to do the things that the time dedication for something like that is actually really taxing.
Yeah, it is.
And the money involved.
Speaking of that, after 10 years, he decided to stop with the PI because he wanted to move on. He felt like it was draining himself that way.
Yep.
So he stopped with it. But
then what happened?
Not before he first published where he was and his new name. So I didn't say any of his name this whole time because I wanted to end with the last time Dominique Dunn's killer was known is the last name is John Maura, M-A-U-R-A.
Maura.
Maura. And he is thought to live in the Pacific Northwest.
Son of a bitch.
Yep.
Didn't we just make a crack about breeding more of those the other day?
So that is the stories of cursed movie sets, but really they're the stories of the unsolved murders of the Bag murders, who is most likely a serial killer, the murder of Dominique Dunn, and the injustice that was served for her.
That's shitty.
Yeah. Again, I told you that this is going to end on a real shitty note.
What was the guy's first name?
Huh?
What was the guy's first name? Maura?
John
Maura.
Maura.
I'll have to look that one up.
Yeah.
All you people out there that have the FBI skills as girlfriends, jump on that one.
Yes. Again, that was the last known name for him.
There's a way to tie that.
And the last known area he lived in, it was the Pacific Northwest.
Scary.
So, yeah.
They're out there.
They are out there. But also, if you are a victim of domestic violence right now, please know that there are resources, but also know that leaving is some of the most dangerous time. So please call your friends, call the different resources. Maybe we'll put the domestic hotline, domestic violence hotline in the show notes, and please stay safe.
Oh, God, and if you know people that are in that type of situation, help them.
Yes.
Look, don't just stand
help
by
them. And again, please be safe and know that you are worth it and that you don't need to keep being in the situation that you are. And to stay safe again, yeah. And don't get murdered, please.
Yeah, nobody deserves that shit.
Cheers. Bye.